Okay, now that we have our models, let's start building out our pages and our templates. So let's start by making our home page. So of course, like we said earlier, we're not going to visit a page directly ever. We always go through a controller. So let's start by making the controller for the home page. So this will be called index.php, which you make in the root of the project. So create a new file, index.php. It's index.php so that when you visit that folder called shop on the server, it will automatically go directly to this page. So let's open that up. Okay, so first thing you want to do is just get into PHP, and then just as standard, I added to the top of every controller, I put these two things here. So first of all, some controllers will need sessions to work. So we just check here. First of all, just good practice, check if there is a session already started before you try and start one. So at the beginning of my page, I just check if has a session been started. If it hasn't, then start one. Also, I include the utility functions.php because that's got my redirect function. Often a controller will need to redirect you to a different page. It will send a message back to your browser on the client and say, no, not this address, try this one instead, and your browser will then try a different address. So that redirect function is in this, which is why I include it generally at the top of every controller. So in this case, our controller is not using those two things, but I put it there anyway, just so that it's a standard thing I add to the top of every controller. So, okay, what we need to do now is include the page, which will be our home page. So we add an include. We're going to include pages /home page .php. Like so. Okay, and then I'm going to close PHP because we finished writing script. So all my controller, this particular one, is going to do is include the page for the home page. In the future, we'll write controllers which will use get variables, post variables, make decisions on which page to show, etc. But in this case, it's a very simple controller, it just puts the home page in. Okay. So let's save that. Now what I want to do is create the homepage.php itself. So in pages, I'm going to create a new file called homepage.php. Homepage.php. Okay, like so. Okay, so we're going to just start building out in plain HTML, and then as we find things in the HTML that we want to pull out into templates, we'll pull those out into templates. Okay, so what I've done here is I've built up a fairly simple HTML page. So it's an HTML document only, there's no PHP in here yet. And you'll see here you've got open HTML tag, language English, and at the bottom close HTML tag. Then you've got your head, your body, and so your details about the page is in the head and the content of your page is in the body. So we've given it a title which goes inside the head. Okay, like so. And then in the body I have a header. This is not head tag, it's header. So this is a line at the top of the page. Then we have some navigation, so nav. So with different links, there's the home, products, basket, register, and a little login form. Okay, which has some fields to enter our email address and our password. And then if we submit, okay, then what it will do is it will send that to this controller, which doesn't exist yet. Okay, as with the products basket and register links, this will take you to these controllers, which we haven't created yet. So then we have, that's the nav. Then we have our main section. This is the main content of our page. Okay. And what I have here is 2 sections, like so. And here, after the main, I've got a footer. So actually, inside the main, I wanted to, let's add an aside as well. Okay, we're not going to actually use this on our home page, but we do use it on some other pages. So just to show you how that works. Okay, so I'll write some, this is a sidebar. Okay, so we'll add that as well. So we've got an aside and 2 sections. Okay, so we do have a little bit of PHP code here where we just output the current year for the copyright. So we, on our front page, we also have an iframe here, which is an embedded Google map to show our location of our store. So what we've done is made a very basic home page with all our details on it. And if we go and visit this on the web, it looks something like this. We've got the header here, the nav with the form to log in, the sidebar, section 1, section 2, and then the footer. Okay, so what you'll notice here is the request has been made to index.php. And just to remind ourselves, index.php is our controller and there's no HTML here. We just included our homepage.php, which is in our pages folder. Okay, so if we look in here, this HTML is actually in homepage.php. So what we're seeing here is we visited index.php, we're seeing all the HTML from homepage.php. Okay, so what we should do now is let's just start adding some styling to this document. It needs some layout and colors and things like that. So let's begin by sorting out the CSS for the layout. Okay, so what we're going to need to do is, if I go back here, I need to add a CSS document for the layout. Okay, so first I need to do is create a new file. Okay, and this file needs to be called, give me a moment, it needs to be called page layout.css. So let's call it page layout.css. Okay, like so. Okay, here it is, page layout.css. Okay, and before we start adding all the tags, we can actually start adding some selectors here before we start adding what we need. So let's have a look at what kind of selectors we'll be using. We'll probably use the header. Okay, so header tag, select that, we would just do like that, like so. What else do we have here? Inside the header we've got 2 head IDs, so it's head 1 and head 2. So let's do that. Hash head 1. Okay, and do the same thing for head 2. So use those. So we've got another selector there for head 2. Okay. Right, then if we have a look in here, we've got head 1, head 2. Cool. Then we've got our nav. So let's add a selector for the nav. Okay. That's that. And probably what I want as well is just a selector for the A tags in the nav. So let's do nav A. Okay. So we can select the hyperlinks inside there. Okay. Alright, so let's have a look at what else we have. Okay, perhaps before I'd done the header, I should have done body because that will be useful. So I'm going to do body, like so. Okay, And so that gives me my body. Okay, I've got nav A. Okay, all right, and then probably something for the menu. So this for this form inside this div. So let's select menu login. Okay, which is an ID. So that will be hash menu login, like so. Okay. All right, hash menu login. And then what I've got is, let's see, maybe something for the form. I'm not sure. Yeah, so let's do it for that form as well. So let's do the form inside that menu login. Okay, and let's see what else we have. So let's also do it for the inputs, like we probably want to style that. So let's do menu login inputs, like so. Okay, right, menu login input. Okay, and also for the submit button, so the type is submit, the type's not button. So if I've added a class here called button. So anything that I want to look like a button, I'll just add this class to it. So let's do that as well. So menu login button. Like so. Okay. And then when I hover over the button, I actually want to change how that looks as well. So I'll do menu button hover. Hover is when you have your mouse hovering over something like that. Okay. Right, then I don't have it yet, but actually there will be something where instead of log in, I will have log out. So I'm going to have a different version. When the person's logged in, they'll see this, and when they're logged out, they'll see a log out with an ID log out. So I'm going to add that as well. So it'll be hash menu log out. Okay. And we also don't have it in this HTML document yet, but we will have it later, is user details. That's just to basically a little div with telling us who is logged in, but obviously we don't have any login in our system yet. So user details, okay? And later on, we're also going to have some images for our different products, which will be a class, okay? So that should have been menu login dot button actually, because it's a class, I guess. Okay, so later on, we're also going to have images for our different products. So those I'll give a class called dot product image. Of course, in practice, you will have to add extra selectors as you go through your project. Okay, so then we have our main. So let's add that main. Okay, and then we have an aside. So let's do a selector for the aside. Okay. Then we have a section after the aside. So section. Each section will generally give some IDs as well. So let's add a section. The IDs are there so that if you need to individually select them, you can. Okay. And then let's say for any images which appear in a section, let's add a selector for them, because we'll probably want to give them a specific width or something like that. Okay, and then the last thing we have at the bottom is a footer. So let's add a selector for the footer, like so. Okay, and let's save that. Okay, so we have a bunch of selectors, but we haven't added any CSS properties or values yet. Okay, so what we'll need to do is link this file. So in your homepage.php, what you need to do is add the links for that. All right. So to link a CSS document, what you need to do is in your head, okay, we will need to link that. So we'll just do a link, okay, rel equals style sheet, like so, okay. And then we need to give the type, so the type will be equal to text /CSS, like so. Okay, text /CSS, and we need to give it the location. So the href will be in the CSS folder /page layout .css, and you can close off that tag like so. Okay, so there we've linked the style sheet. Right, the next thing I want, so let's save that. There are some, so basically I've got my HTML page here and I've linked the style sheet. There are some other things that you need to add to your head tag as well. For example, if you want to display some different characters, for example, Cyrillic characters from the Russian alphabet, you'll need to specify a meta tag here saying that the character set should be equal to UTF-8, like so. Okay. Something else you'll probably have to add is to ensure that the content's not all squashed on mobile devices, add a specification for the viewport for mobile devices. So let's say meta name equals viewport, like so. Okay, and content equals width equals device width. So, comma, initial dash scale equals 1.0. Like how much is it zoomed in? Device width, initial scale 1.0. Okay. So then what you can do is close off that meta tag as well. Okay. There's also a meta tag you could add which helps for search engines, okay? And this one is called name equals description, okay? So the only purpose of this one is to add some keywords to enable Google, for example, to search for your page or categorize it correctly. So content equals, and you can add some things in here like city, there's Petropavl, maybe the school, and so you can just make up whatever properties you want to add here. Let's say purpose educational. So there's a bunch of things you can add in here. You can look up those. Okay, so the only purpose of this is to make your page more searchable. Okay, then something else I will add is this here where it's called base. It sets the base URL for your page so that when you want to reference things later, like here for a href index.php, you don't have to put everything in front of that. It'll just automatically look in the the URL, base URL here for this. So I can specify that to be href equals, in my case it's this, but for yours of course it will be different depending on your server. Okay. Okay, shop, like so, and another /. Okay, and close off that tag. So it's giving me the base. Okay, then something else I'm going to include here is my one JavaScript file, which has a few functions that I will use. So what I'm going to do is link that here. So it's script type equals text / JavaScript. So this is some code that will run in the browser. Okay, so source is equal to, it will be in my JavaScript folder, and it will be called utility functions dot. I was about to write PHP, but it's not, it's JavaScript. So this is the utility functions, which are the JavaScript. Okay, and this one we have to close off a bit different. I'm not sure why you have to do it like this. Okay, so while we add it, let's just quickly add that JavaScript file there. So under JS, JavaScript, I'm going to create a new file. I'm going to call it utility functions dot JS, like so. Okay, so whenever I need to add some JavaScript functions, I will add them to that file there, which is already linked in the head. Okay, so what I want to do now, I've got my page. Let's save that. I've got my page layout. Let's just check that it all still works, which it seems to do. Okay. Right, so what I want to do now is start adding some CSS for my page layout. So before we start working on our CSS for the layout, I have noticed that on our page we have an image which is not linked in our project. So let's go and add that now. So if you look at the code, what you'll see is that image is over here, sources in image folder, store inside.jpg. So let's add that to our project quickly. So let's upload a file here. Okay, and we'll have to try and find that. Hopefully I've got it here. Okay, and it should upload. Great. So if I go back to my page, refresh it, I should see the picture there. Okay. Right, so let's start working on the CSS. So first of all, if I go into the developer tools in Chrome by using F12, I can go and inspect the different elements. If you look at the body, you'll see that the body has an 8-pixel margin around the outside. So we want to get rid of that. We don't want any margin. So what I'm going to do is I add margin 0 auto to the body and then save the page. Okay, so let's go and check what effect that has had on the page. So if I refresh the page, you'll see that now if I look at the body, it has no margin, 0 margins. Okay, so let's go back here. So to the body, I'm also going to add background position center. So this is if you have a background image, it will be centered. And I'm also going to do background size contain. So if you have a background image on your page, it will size it properly. And then I'm going to set the height of the body to be 100%. So let's save that. Okay. Right. So next thing we're going to do is, if we go back and have a look at the page, let's see what we need to start doing. So we want the footer to stick on the bottom. We want the header to, well, not the header, but the head. The nav actually would like to stick to the top. So let's add that. So what we need to do is to the header, well, not to the header, sorry, to main, because those are contained in, sorry, not main, so to the nav, what I want to do is add position sticky. So that will make it stick on the page when you scroll, and distance from the top to be 0 pixels, like so. And we're going to make the overflow to be hidden, like so. Okay, and we save that. So let's go and see what effect that has. So if you'll notice now, if you refresh the page and I scroll up, as I scroll up, the nav sticks to the top there. Alright, which is quite useful. Okay, and then we're going to do the same thing for the footer. So for the footer, what we want to do is we're going to also make it position sticky. So go to the footer, we're going to make it position sticky, and we're going to say distance from the bottom to be 0 pixels, and we'll save that. So if we have a look at the page now and we refresh it, you'll notice that the footer here is stuck on the bottom as I scroll up and down. So our nav sticks to the top and our footer sticks to the bottom. Okay. So next what we want to do is we want our side and our sections to be next to each other. So for our side and our sections are contained in the main. So to the main, I'm going to change its display to be flex. That means anything inside I can arrange in columns or in rows. So a side and section are inside main. So I've said main should be display flex. Then a side I'm going to make flex 1. And the sections, let's make flex 5. So 1 and 5 is basically what ratio to do it in. So I've got 1 flex and 2 sections. 1 plus 5 would be 11. So in other words, the side would be 1/11 of the width. One section would be 5/11 of the width. You can adjust this depending on how wide you want your columns to be. So let's save that and have a look at the effect of that. So let's refresh the page. So you'll see now there's the sidebar, there's this first section, and the contact us on the right. So something that's happening on the page right now is this picture is kind of dominating things because it's shifting everything over because of its width. So let's fix that. So if we go back here, let's look, we've got the store image itself, okay, which is in a section, I guess. We've got product image, we've got section image. Okay, so what we're going to do for section image is set its width to be 100%. So because it's in a flex, the section is flex, and you make its width 100%, it will only be a maximum of the width that you want the section to be. So let's save that. And we can refresh. See now that's a lot more reasonable that this is the width of that section. And this is the sidebar here. So it looks like our layout is starting to come together. Our nav sticks to the top. We have our 3 columns and we have our footer at the bottom. Okay. Okay, so now we want to start fixing up this nav. and getting things in the correct places. So let's first look at these home products, basket and register. So what we want those to do is stay on the left, and then we want the login div to go to the right hand side over here. So let's add that. So what we want to do is to the links in the navigation, we want them to float left. Okay, and we want the menu login, so that's the div with the menu in for the logging in. We want that to float right. Okay, so we want that to float right, like that. Okay, so I'm going to float that right. So let's just have a look if there's anything else we need. Also, we don't have it on the page now, but when we do, we'll want the logout button to also float on the right, like that. Okay, so let's check what effect that has had. So let's refresh this page. So you'll see now the links are on the left and the login is on the right. Okay, great. So as you can see on the page at the moment, there's everything seems kind of squashed together. So what we need to do is add some padding. Okay, so to the header, let's add some padding all around of 7 pixels, like so. Okay, and refresh the page. So you can see there's 7 pixels around this header here. You can see it. If we look at the header, you can see there's a 7 pixel padding around the outside of it. Okay, so let's continue to do that to kind of spread things out a bit. So to head 1, we're going to add padding to the bottom, also of 7 pixels. And also for head 2, we'll do the same, like so. Okay, and then for the nav, we're going to add some padding. Okay, so all around padding of 7 pixels. For nav A, we're going to add some padding to the top of 7 pixels. We're going to add some padding to the bottom of 7 pixels. Okay, and we're going to add some padding to the right of 7 pixels, like so. So top, bottom, and right. Actually, let's make 10 pixels. Okay, that means the links have some padding around them. At the moment they were all bunched up. You can see they're all stuck together here. In fact, if I refresh the page, you'll be able to see that there's some space in between them. Right, so we've done nav A, menu login. Let's do the same thing for that around it. Okay, and what else should we add? Some padding to menu login form. No, we're not going to do that. Menu login inputs. Let's add some padding of 7 pixels. Okay, so that was to the menu login input. Okay, let's add some padding there. And menu login input, and also to the log out button, we'll add that as well to menu log out, like so. Okay, and there we have it. Okay, and user details. Okay, we're going to also add some padding top, bottom, right and left. So top, bottom, right and left. Right, and also for left. So that will be the name of the person who's logged in. Okay, so padding top we want to be 4 pixels. Padding left we want to be 7 pixels. Padding right we want to be 7 pixels. And padding left, padding right should be 7 pixels. Let me just check if that's right. Yep. And top and bottom should be 4. So bottom should be 4 as well. So let's save that. Okay. Then display flex, padding, the aside. Let's add some padding to the aside as well of 7 pixels. Okay, and to the section as well. Right, let's add that to the section. And finally also to the footer. Here. Alright, so let's just fix that indentation. There you go. Okay, so there's a couple of other little ones I want to check out. Menu login input width. For the menu login inputs, okay, where are they? Here. Actually want to give them a specific width, okay, and it's also actually I want to give it a bit of a margin on the right. Okay, margin on the right of 7 pixels, and give it a width of 250 pixels like that. Okay, and save it. Okay, so let's see if we're happy with what we've got so far. I think that's mostly it. So let's check what the page looks like. So if we refresh the page, you'll see there's a lot more space around things. Okay, there's a slight problem here with this login, but I think that's just because of the width of my page at the moment. But if I make this page to be full screen width, this should fit in nicely going across. Okay, so if we press F12, you'll be able to see some of the padding that we've added around things. Okay, that makes them not all stick so closely together. So you can, using the box model, you can change the margin, border and padding. To begin with, I'd recommend just sticking to playing with the padding mostly. Okay, so that's our main layout done, and what we should do next is start working with some colors. So let's start adding the CSS for our colors now. So what we're going to do is do that in a separate file. So we're going to make another CSS document, and we're going to call this one colors and fonts. So colors and fonts.css. Okay, there you go. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to paste it. I've got all the same selectors that we had before, so you could just copy the selectors from the other document. Right, and we can start working with that. So what we should do is link this to our home page. So if we go back up to our header, we need to link this style sheet as well. So we're going to link this style sheet, and it will be colors and fonts.css. Alright, also in the same folder. Double check and make sure you've got the spelling correct always. So let's save that. Right, so in colors and fonts, let's start adding our colors and fonts. What I'm going to do here is actually add another selector at the top. called star. Star means everything. So for everything, I wanted to have a certain font. So I wanted to choose a font from the font family, Trebuchet MS. Trebuchet MS. So put that in quotes. Okay, Trebuchet MS, or Arial, or Helvetica, or sans serif. Okay, so it will choose from that font family something appropriate to use. Okay, depending on what is installed in your system. So let's save that and continue. Let's look at what that did to the page. So let's refresh the page and you'll see that it's changed the fonts on every element in the page. Okay, so then to head 1, I want to make the font size to be 40 pixels. Okay, the color is going to be this color here, hash 009900, and the font weight I want to be bold, like so. Okay, let's save that and look at what it did to head 1. So let's refresh that. You can see there's head 1. So that color is a green color, and it's the change the font size for that. Okay, now let's change it for head 2. So same properties but different values. So font size 20, so half the size, and the color for this one we want to be 2F4858, like so, and also bold. So we save that and go and have a look at the result of that. You can see it's a kind of dark gray color. Okay, so then for the menu login dot button, so menu login dot button, okay, because it had that button class, and also for anything with the dot button class, and also anything called with the tag button, we want to add this. So we want to make the color to be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We want that to be white, and the background, okay, we want to be DDD. Okay, and font size we want to be 20 pixels. Font size to be 20 pixels. Let's give it a solid border. So solid border, and border width, let's give it a border width of 1 pixel. It's a very thin border, and let's add some padding to the buttons as well. So padding will be 1 pixel, I think it's top and bottom, and 6 pixels left and right. Then the cursor for the button, that's the arrow, this thing here, should be a pointer style. Okay, and then text decoration, okay, we'll set to none. The reason for that is if it's a hyperlink with the dot button class, hyperlinks are underlined, so text decoration none will remove the underlining, and we'll make the width to be auto. Okay, so let's save that and see what it's done to anything with the dot button, anything that we want to be a button really. So let's go and look at the page. Okay, so we've got this button here. You'll see how it changed to this style. Okay. So there's also something I want to do is when I hover over it with my cursor, I want it to change color so that I can see that I'm hovering over it. So what you can do is, so we've done this instead of using this selector here. So we can actually take this up here so it's a bit closer to where I'm doing this stuff. So when I hover over it, I want it to change its color to be let's see, 009900, and let's save that and have a look. So now when I hover over, let's see if it's worked. Finish. Okay, it didn't work for that one. So menu login button. Okay, let me change the selector for that. So I'm going to call that selector rather to be anything with the dot button class, if you hover over that, and anything with the button tag, and you hover over that. Okay. So this one I'm not sure if you actually needed this, because I think this covers all of that. Let's just try that. Okay. Refresh our page here. You can see when I hover over it, it changes, but not exactly like I wanted it to, because actually I wanted it to be the background color. And save. Also, I'm not completely happy with what happened to the width of it, so let's just refresh and have a look. So there you go. Let's put that hash menu login dot button back here. Okay, and save that. Okay, so there you go. That's back to normal, but the hover when it's green is not quite working, so let's add that to that as well and save it. Let's refresh. Okay, now it's green permanently. Okay, let's just remove that for now. It's not so important. We'll come back to it. Oh, I know what happened. It's because I needed to add hover. Okay, like so. Let's save that, and let's go and see what effect it has. So, as I hover over it, it turns green. So I'm starting to get happy with my colors and layouts here. Let's continue. What else we can add? To the nav, we're going to add some background to it, but a nice gradiated background. So the nav's got no background at the moment. So to the nav, where is the nav? There it is. So to the nav, we want to add background image. And normally you'd use this to actually do a picture file, but what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to do a gradient. So let's do a linear gradient. Linear gradients, like that. And we're going to say that it's to right, and we'll add a couple of the colors in. So first color will be 009900. Second color will be 008 D49. Let's make my next color to be 007 007 E6A, and make the next color 006 D77. Okay. And the next color here, we're going to make, let's just add here. So the next color we're going to make 005A 70 And in the last color, we're going to make 2F4858. Right, and add a semicolon on the end there. So let's save this and see if it did what we wanted it to. So let's refresh the page. You see there it's got a gradient from the left to the right. Okay. And let's make the color to be white. So that means the color of the text. So if we do color white, okay, it's the same as before where we did where we used all zeros basically, but you can call it white if you want. Okay, so color white. Let's refresh that and change exactly how I thought it would. Okay, color white. Let's just check here. Okay, alright, never mind. That's because I actually need to change it here for those navs, so let's make that color white and save that, and let's go and have a look at what that does. Right, so it makes those there white. Also, I don't want them to be underlined like that, so I'm going to make their text decoration to be none and save that. So you'll see that now they're not underlined anymore. Okay, let's also do our font size. Okay, font size to be 20 pixels. Yeah, and you'll see that makes them a bit bigger like that. Also, we would kind of want them to be centered. So we're going to do text align center. Let's see what effect that has. Text align center. So if we refresh that, actually it has no effect. So maybe it's not necessary. I can remove that. That's fine. Okay. So things look like they're starting to come together here, and let's look down for our inputs. Alright, so for our menu login inputs, let's give it a font size of 20 pixels with no border. So border, none. Okay. And then let's save that and have a look. So that's for the inputs on there. So there's our two inputs here. Okay, you'll see it's made it more of a flatter square style. Okay, right. And then for a section image, alright, we already did that, we don't need to do anything with that. For an aside, let's go find an aside. Let's give it a different background color just so it stands out a bit. So background color for an aside, let's make that to be DFF8D5, like that. Okay, and let's save this and go across and refresh our page. Okay, so you see it's changed the color of that sidebar there. Okay, and then for the footer, we're going to give it the same gradient that we had before. Okay, and make its color white. Okay, and let's save that and refresh, and you'll see that now footer also has a gradient and the text is white. Okay, to the footer I also want to do text align center. Okay, because that will center that on the page. Okay, let's see. It didn't quite work the way I thought it would. Let's do font size 30 pixels. Okay, so font size 30 pixels, and font weight, let's do font weight, make it bold. Okay, let's save that, and let's look at what that did to the page. There you go, our text is nice. I had a problem, I didn't put a semicolon on the end when I tried to center it. So there you go, it's centered nicely, decent text size, everything kind of looks decent now. So that's our CSS for our layouts done, and our CSS for our colors and fonts. Okay. Later on we will add some CSS for tables and also some CSS for forms, but we'll do that when we come to those.